Hey, if you're tired of get rich quick hype, then join the club. The legendary investor Charlie Munger said, wealth builds slowly with a series of good bets. And so today's episode of Own the Exit is all about exploring the power of playing the long game in both business and investing. We're going to be debunking some myths and revealing some secrets on how to build lasting wealth. And it's all about playing the long game.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Own the Exit. I'm Aaron here in the studio with Caleb.
What's up, everybody?
Caleb, I know you've had some experience with some of those tempting shiny object opportunities in the past. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, I've definitely fallen victim to my fair share of get rich quick schemes, especially early on in my entrepreneurial journey. I can remember one time I was back in, I don't know, it's been over 15 years ago. There was this, it ended up being a Ponzi scheme called Zeke Rewards. You ever hear about that? Yeah, I don't know if it's even okay for me to say the name, but it's whatever. They got shut down and ended up their office was a UPS mailbox. But it was like an online penny auction thing where you could buy like an iPad for $10 or something like that. But then you buy a bid. Each bid costs you $1. So you buy like a package of 50 bids, it's like $50.
Okay.
But then every time you bid, it's only a penny to buy the thing, right? Does that make sense? And so it was this whole scam of if you buy enough packages of this and then you recruit other people, then you'll get more of these and all this kind of stuff. And people all over my small town in North Carolina where I lived at the time were like putting $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 into this Zeke Rewards thing. And the one guy in the area at the top was making like bank, right? He's making like all this money. So I'm like, I'll put some money in Zeke Rewards. You know what I mean? Like I want to join the hype. You know what I mean? Everybody's making money. But it come to find out when you went to actually try to cash your money out, you couldn't cash it out. You couldn't get the money out. So it was like, it looked like you had a bunch of money, and they ended up getting shut down and investigated by the government and all that kind of stuff. And I just realized it was a lesson for me in that moment, although I didn't lose nearly as much money as most people did because I didn't put a whole lot of money in it. I put a couple grand in it or something like that. But I realized most people are not wired to play the long game. And even if you are, I've always felt like I've been pretty smart with money, right? Like I try to make smart investment decisions. But at the end of the day, it's easy to get sucked into the hype of something, especially when a lot of other people are doing it.
Yeah, it's like human nature. If you can like shortcut the process, or if you can somehow get rich quick or whatever. I remember with just being like 15 or 14, really young, and this was like in the 90s. And I got this like this magazine where it was like it was like the secret to like becoming a millionaire like really quickly. It was like a really quick business idea. Anyone can do this. Buy my book. Yeah. And it was like super good like package, right? And so I was like 14. So I like bought the book. And the book was about the way you got rich was by writing a book. And there was all these topics of all the different books you could write in. Like, you don't have to be an expert. Anyone can do it. You can go to the library and get the content. Obviously, it's even easier with the internet now, and even now with AI, you could just write a book. But that was like the secret of it. So I was like, so it's like my idea of, but it appeals to something of if I can somehow. I don't know why, but it's like human nature of getting money quick or not putting in the work. It's the same idea of taking steroids. You're like, I want to shortcut like the natural process of fitness, and I just want to look awesome, and I want to achieve it like now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, obviously, that guy, like, he executed on what he was teaching you.
Yeah, it worked. It was funny.
He sold 1 million books about how to make $1 million selling 1 million books, or whatever the thing is. Yeah, I do think that most entrepreneurs, we go through, I'm thinking about going on social media, right? You scroll through social media, you hear about all of these rags to riches type stories. And if we're not careful as entrepreneurs, we can look at those stories and we can forget that Instagram, social media, whatever it is, it's the highlight reel. What you hear on there is not the behind the scenes grind, the years and the decades of failure, all of those different things. And I think for most entrepreneurs, the best lesson that we can learn and solidify and get concrete in us is that most people do not get rich. Overnight success stories have a backlog of decades of failure and hard work and figuring out problems and how to solve problems. And it's really about the anchor of building wealth and having success is looking at the long term rather than having the mirage of, if I just keep believing or I just keep doing that, then one day it's just going to happen overnight. It's no, just show up, do the consistent work.
Right.
Don't fall victim. If you want to throw $1,000 into the latest crypto gamble or whatever, or 10,000, however much you're rolling with, if you want to gamble a little bit, then that's your prerogative, right? But don't look at that as a wealth building solution.
Right.
Look at it and call it what it is. It's a gamble.
Yeah.
Because most wealth is built through consistent, steady, hard work, showing up every day, doing the stuff.
And I think that's good, the way that process works, just because incrementally, as you develop your skills, as you develop your management abilities and your stewardship, then as you have more or you do gain that success, it's like you're able to not lose that money. Like people who win the lottery and they've never had money before and they don't know how to, people get weird or they don't know and then they just lose it.
Yeah.
And it's because I like those steps. I like that the way that's how it's set up. There are people that hack that, but are they really successful? It's almost like cheating.
Yeah.
I like it when you have to do the steps and then there's that fulfillment too and the personal development that goes along with it. Like just somebody who trains, for years and years in the gym, using that analogy again, they have that work that they've put in and they didn't cheat.
Absolutely. When you learn it and when you earn it, then when you have it, you value it.
Right.
When it gets handed to you or you get it by chance or by luck, and I'm not saying that there's not any luck involved in business, but I believe that luck is attracted to hard work.
Yeah.
Good luck is attracted to a good work ethic.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely. But it is easy to see why get rich quick schemes are so appealing. We do the quick fix. I'm a guy that shows up and works hard every day, but when I want my lunch, I want it like in 2 minutes from the microwave. You know what I mean? And so there are aspects of even the way that entrepreneurs are wired that we want results faster.
Yeah.
We want to see results faster. And I think that's part of what makes entrepreneurs, especially successful entrepreneurs, that's part of what makes them unique. That's part of what makes them a gift to the world, is they are constantly looking for ways to get results. And ultimately, those results are solving problems, right? They're ultimately looking for ways to solve problems in condensed timeframes. And by doing that, it improves the lives of other people and all that kind of stuff. But it is human nature, and especially entrepreneur nature, to crave a little bit of instant gratification. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's just human nature overall. I think entrepreneurs actually do have an insight to realize like you do have to work hard and put in that front end work.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs work for years for no pay or nominal pay to get something, to build something that is worth having. But I think it's just universally like where people just want it now. They want health, they want relationships, but they don't want to put in the work. They want to have finances, they want to have something worth having in all the areas of life. But you can have that, but it just takes work. And it's the principle of sowing and reaping.
Yeah.
You can't reap a harvest if you don't sow the seeds. Like you're not going to just go gather that. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, it's almost cheating to try to do it. Hey, if I won the lottery tomorrow, that's awesome. I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not basing my life on that, or that's not like my primary way of operating.
Yeah.
But you do get those little windfalls and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, you get luck will hit every once in a while. Yeah. That's not like typically how things work or how we should. And we shouldn't be offended if it is work.
Yeah.
Or we shouldn't be like, oh, this guy has this or that, like all the overnight success. Like you said, you can't dwell on that. You just have to realize like every person has to just put in that work and the results will eventually come.
Yeah. And it is hard work. And it's important, I think, that entrepreneurs just remember that we have these platitudes like work smarter, not harder. But a lot of times those kind of statements can be our biggest hindrance, because at the end of the day, it is better to work smarter than harder, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have to work hard. And a lot of times the biggest solution to the problems that you face in your business are the fact that you're not doing enough, right? Activity equals productivity. The more you do, the more outcome you get. And then as you go along, you can get smarter at what you do. You can get better at what you do.
You do the same amount in less hours.
Exactly. And you can compound to the point where you're getting an exponential return on your hard work. But you don't graduate from hard work. Now, we're talking about a lot about this in business, right? This is on the exit. And I love what you said, by the way, about the principle of sowing and reaping. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a get-rich-quick scheme that you're trying to get rich off of, or it's building a business for the long term, or it's investing for the long term, the principle is there across all of those different proposed strategies. You mentioned the lottery ticket. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket, which means there is a sowing, the $10 to buy the lottery ticket. And then there's the hope of immediately scratching that baby off and reaping.
Yeah.
So we all understand that is the principle, but then just look at nature. When you put a seed in the ground, does it grow overnight? Maybe it sprouts a little bit, sometimes in the best soil, in the best environment, in the best situation. And that's a lot of times what you can see when you start a business is if you are in the right lane, if you're in the right economic environment, if you know all of those kind of things, then you can see some results start, the beginning, some budding results pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that's validating. But then there's other times where you sow and you start and you don't see the results right away. And that's where most entrepreneurs give up. They don't understand that principle. And it's the same with the investing world as well, which we're unique because we are entrepreneurs who are in the investment world. We have an investment company, and so we see it from both sides.
Yeah, as entrepreneurs, I always want to accelerate that. But yeah, it's just, you mentioned nature. I grew up in northern British Columbia, and I did a lot of tree planting in the summers and deep out in the woods. And so basically we're planting these trees that are like 4 inches high, little seedlings. And it takes about 60 to 80 years for one of those to be harvestable. And so British Columbia basically was a forestry capital of the world, or one of them.
Wow. That
they've been doing this since the 1800s, but they had the foresight to actually replant and try to manage their forests. But I'm thinking, I had planted these ones, this one cut block, and I remember coming back 10 years later because I was out going to a lake or something, and I'm like, I remember where we were. And the trees are 12 feet tall. Yeah. In 10 years, not even close to being harvestable. Yeah. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be dead when all these, in 80 years, and people are harvesting the trees. So it's even setting up things in motion that are I'm not even going to see the rewards of that sowing, but someone else will in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously we want to build businesses that bless us and help us to achieve success in our lifetime and in shorter and more condensed time frames. And I do think that taking that kind of compounding effect that's one thing that entrepreneurs really should focus on, is the power of, think of it as compounding interest. Yeah. Right? In the investment world, it's next year you'll be building upon a bigger foundation because of the work that you do this year. Or next week, you'll be building on a bigger foundation. And if you think about the compounding effect of that, what is it that most people underestimate or overestimate what can be done in a day and underestimate what can be done in a year?
Right. I've heard that, yeah.
And so it's knowing that every day you may feel like you're trudging through the mud a little bit if you're building a business, but ultimately if you look back a year from now, then
you're chipping away at those.
You are chipping away at that,
progress.
and you're gonna see actual growth in your business if you just stay consistent, stay active. Yeah. Don't fall into the false belief that I must be doing it wrong since it's not working overnight. Just stay steady. We were just talking about, and I'm letting our community into our back-end ultimate strategy for why we initially launched this podcast in the first place. And it was really to serve and help entrepreneurs build successful businesses. But we have a little back-end down the road. Hopefully, what happens is a lot of the business owners that we help build successful businesses then want to connect with us and take the increased cash flow and the money they make in their businesses because of what they're learning through the Own the Exit community.
Right.
And invest in deals that we're doing in the real estate world. And we did have, after a year of episodes, we had, without ever asking anyone to do that, without ever saying, hey, if you want to invest in real estate with OakIQ Investments, then go to oakiq.com. Without ever saying, that's probably the first time I've ever said that on this show. I had the first guy that booked an investor call with me 2 days ago.
That's cool.
He's listened to every episode of the show. He lives out in California. He owns a construction company. And he was like, man, I really appreciated, this episode and that episode. It really helped me. And I really like the new project that you're working on.
Cool,
I want to invest $100,000, all that kind of stuff. Send me all the information, talk about it. And that was just cool. But it's a testimony of, we've been showing up a couple times a month, videoing and recording these episodes without thinking too much early on about what's the ultimate outcome. How are we going to make money off of this? We've spent a lot of money on producing this show, and we've not tried to make any money off of it.
Right.
And a lot of that's because I know you and I are both very passionate about helping entrepreneurs, but it's just sometimes the way that business works. You have to do stuff without seeing immediate results, and you have to be able to do it for the long term, play the long game. Because at the end of the day, when you build, you can build it quick or you can build it strong. You can build it quick or you can build it right. And I think building it right is what we're after. And then if we can condense that time frame by doing it smarter, then of course. But ultimately, in the world of business, in the world of investing, you have to think about, how can I build it right? So Aaron, you've built several successful businesses. You obviously have a very impressive portfolio of investments. What would be the one big thing that you would tell entrepreneurs that's actionable, that they could start doing tomorrow or today, that would help them refocus themselves on the long term and invest in long-term success, rather than hoping that tomorrow they're going to become overnight success stories?
Yeah, good question. I would just think, and this is something that happens to me, is you got to focus on those big goals. Like if you picture like a field with, like, you're trying to move these stones, right? And there's these giant boulders, but then there's a lot of little pebbles everywhere. And as like owners of a company or founders, or we can be picking up all these little pebbles and moving them around, but there's these bigger boulders that we've got to move. Those are those long-term goals that it's easy to get distracted and everything, but those are the bigger things we've got to like chip away at. So I just think like delegation, working smarter, whether that's through technology, whether that's a team member getting in your lane, I say that all the time, is just staying in your lane, staying in your area of skill set or aptitude, I think is huge, just to keep doing it over the long term. And I think one of the things that can kind of sabotage growth is, like, of course, your mindset, like you said, the get rich quick mindset or whatever, I don't think is a good mindset. But also the getting too scattered and getting too you've got to think about that big picture. Like, sometimes you just got to reflect and be like, hey, in 5 years, this thing is going to be worth X. And you got to like dwell on that and be like, oh, okay, yeah, these little steps I'm taking, I'm moving something to the other side of the field that's going to be really big. And so just staying focused on that over like probably years, maybe 10 years, it's just super long. But you just have to I even think of it as like marriage. When you're married, I plan on being married to the same woman for the rest of my life. And it's not like a get rich quick thing. It's not, I'm not trying to get anything. It's not like, there's no immediate gratification. It's just a long-term commitment and a very long-term daily chipping away at. That's why even doing like weekly dates is it doing anything? And the kids interrupted or whatever it might be. But those matter, because those are just like little steps.
Investments.
That are little, I'm inching my way toward that wealth in the area of relationships in that area. And it's by those small, and that's how it works in every area of life, business too.
Yeah, with what you're saying, two things come to mind for me. The first is that story. There's a guy. There's a big, huge boulder in his backyard, and he goes out every day and starts from sun up to sundown, pushing and pushing against that boulder, trying to get it to move. And every day, more and more people come to watch him do this, and they're heckling him and calling him crazy and saying, "Man, you're not going to move that boulder. It's way too big. It's way too whatever." And he stays steady, going out there pushing the boulder. And then one day, his wife steps out on the porch and asks him, "Honey, why are you doing this? that boulder, you've been doing this for months. You've been coming out here pushing this boulder every day from sun up to sundown, and that boulder has not moved an inch. What are you doing? And he's, the boulder hasn't moved, but I've gotten a lot stronger. And so for me, think about sometimes what you're doing is not about getting an external outcome, but it's about you becoming the kind of person that is successful. It's about you getting stronger. It's walking through and doing those hard things that maybe they don't feel like they're going to produce the outcome, or maybe it even feels impossible. But at the end of the day, the long game is that that's the whole reason we do business, is to be successful, right? To have freedom. And that starts on the inside. It starts with what's inside of you. Are you becoming a better version of yourself? Yeah. Regardless of what the outcome of what you're doing is. And I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough in entrepreneurship. It doesn't. We talk a lot about mindset, but we talk about mindset even, hey, you need to really work on the inside of you so that you can get more outcomes. And it's, why do I really want to work on the inside of me? Is at the end of the day, I want to get stronger. I want to be better, because that is success. Is tomorrow I'm a better version of myself than I was yesterday. And then I compound that over time, that steady growth and the improvement, just like pushing against the boulder. Eventually I will get strong enough and that boulder will start to move. But I can't gauge that in short time frames. I have to look at it over a long time frame. Yeah. The second thing that comes to mind, besides the guy with the boulder story, the second thing that comes to mind, and I think is a great takeaway for this episode as well, for me, is there's a lot of people that are trying to reduce their work week way too early on in their business. They're trying to cut themselves out way too soon. And because of that, they're trying to force things to move faster. Because they want the 4-hour work week. They want the FIRE method, right? Financial independence, retire early. Everybody that I know that's successfully done, I'm thinking of a guy named Casey, I'm thinking of another guy as well. There's several people who've had success and retired from their first business in their 30s. And the first thing that happened was they went out and they found more work to do. Because maybe they took a week or 2 or 3 off and were just like, hey, I'm just going to chill and stay at home. But at the end of the day, they were like, what am I doing? This is not fulfilling to me to have. Now I look back, I built something great. I had success, great. But now what? And I think this mirage of, I just want to get to the 4-hour work week where I can just build a business and run it in 4 hours a week and then just go and play golf or go and ride a bicycle or go and just do all kinds of fun stuff the stuff that I want. It's like, but at the end of the day, do those things bring fulfillment? And if you're racing to that finish line, is that even the race that you want to be in? Yeah, I hold that stuff lightly. Like, I know the 4-hour work week is like a pretty known book that people aspire to that, and the whole retire early and all that. But I appreciate that. I listen to that stuff and I'm like, that's really good. I think having a dose of that. Oh, of course. Of like, okay, because then you can have that balance. But I always just go, I think that life is just work, though. I think it's just work. There's always going to be work that you need to do in all the areas of life. In your mind, in your body, in your relationships, spiritually, financially. And it's never just, it's that whole get rich, like it can get twisted where it's just like you check out and you're like, no, I'm just going to be passive. But in all areas, being passive is it's not something I aspire to. Being passive. I know, yes, we want to have passive income coming in, but it can get too extreme where it's like, where it's just you check out and you're like, you've arrived. It's like, there's no arrival. It's like, it's the ongoing journey. And I want to be really clear. What I'm not saying is, I'm not saying that the 4-hour work week or the FIRE methodology, financial independence, retire early, that those are bad goals to set. In fact, I think they're great goals to set. I like those. What I'm saying though is, a lot of entrepreneurs shoot themselves in the foot by trying to race too quickly to that end and try to replace themselves too quickly, and they end up it ended up costing them a lot and taking them a lot longer to actually achieve that goal because they're trying to get to it so fast. So I think if you think about that, it has to just be coupled with an understanding of what grows over time is always stronger, right? It's the difference between the weeds in my backyard and an oak tree. Those weeds will grow big and fast, but I can mow them over in a second. That oak tree takes a lot longer to grow, but it's a lot harder to knock it down. It takes a lot more wind. It takes a lot more rain. It takes a lot more effort from external forces to knock the oak tree down. And so I think that's the big takeaway from this episode is when you're looking at investing, building your business, taking care of yourself, understanding long-term goals really are where the money's at. That's really is where success is truly achieved, is over the long term. And if you get caught up in get rich quick, trying to race too quickly to the wrong finish line, then you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot. I could tell you story after story of that happening. And so I would say the big takeaway that we would want our community to walk away from this episode with is recommitting to setting significant long-term goals and then taking every day to focus on nipping away. How do I get one step closer? And then as you compound that, you can start to look at ways to condense the time frame to get to that goal.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Own the Exit. Remember, real success isn't about one big leap. It's about taking small steps every single day. Success is not a destination, it's a journey. Share in the comments one consistent action you're committing to that will compound into big results for your business. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah. And don't forget to subscribe for more real talk on what it truly takes to build a thriving business. Your future self's going to thank you for playing the long game starting today.